the cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a completely new obsession.
Right, because the headline that dropped is just, it is a massive shock to the system. Jon Hamm is becoming a dad for the first time at 55.
Welcome to StarScope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And for today's deep dive, we are pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources. We've got pieces from Us Weekly, The Hollywood Reporter, and this incredibly raw podcast interview he did with Katie Couric.
Right, and the mission here is to look at how a guy who told the world for 20 years that he was just, too broken to ever have a family, completely flipped the script.
Yeah, it's not just your standard celebrity baby bump story. It's a deep dive into rewriting your own survival code.
If you've ever felt like, you're running out of time or the clock is ticking on your own life choices, this is the story you really need to hear. So let's just jump right into August 2026.
Yes, the breaking news.
Exactly. So tabloids like Daily Mail, Us Weekly, they published these sun-drenched paparazzi photos from a Hamptons getaway.
Oh, the green bikini pictures.
Yes. Anna Osceola, Hamm's 38-year-old wife, is in this green bikini, and there is a very obvious, undeniable baby bump.
And the insider quotes are so funny because they're just so normal. Like TMZ and Variety are reporting that Hamm is, quote, over the moon, and that they're in full nesting mode.
Nesting mode.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's so conventional, right?
It is, and that's what makes it so wild. To get why this conventional picture is actually a massive psychological triumph, we have to look at where this relationship started.
Well, right, the origin story, because it feels literally scripted.
It really does. It's almost too poetic. So they met back in 2015.
On the set of Mad Men, right?
Yeah. Exactly. The series finale, specifically, the episode was called Person to Person. And Hamm is playing Don Draper, a guy who is basically the poster child for toxic avoidance and an inability to form healthy attachments.
And Don ends up at that retreat, right? Aislinn.
Yeah, a fictionalized version of Aislinn up in Big Sur, California, which, was the epicenter of the human potential movement in the 60s.
Like stripping away your corporate ego to find spiritual rebirth.
Precisely. And guess who was cast as Clementine, the receptionist at this retreat?
Anna Osceola.
Yes. So Don Draper's literal arrival at a place of healing is facilitated by the exact woman who ends up facilitating Jon Hamm's real-life healing.
Okay, wait. I have to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
Because, Hollywood absolutely loves to romanticize this stuff. They love the whole love conquers all narrative.
Yeah, for sure.
Are we sure this isn't just like a classic midlife crisis? A wealthy 50-something actor leaving a long-term relationship, marrying a woman almost 20 years younger, and having a baby. That's literally the oldest cliche in the book.
Well, that is a totally fair question, and it's the exact skepticism you should have. But the timeline here completely destroys that cliche.
Really? How so?
Because if this was an impulsive midlife crisis, they would have run off to Vegas right after the show wrapped. But they didn't.
Right. He was actually just coming out of a huge relationship.
Yeah, nearly 2 decades with filmmaker Jennifer Westfeldt, which ended later that same year in 2015. And after he and Anna met on set, there's this massive gap. They weren't even seen together.
So when did they actually start dating?
Well, they were finally photographed grabbing coffee in 2017.
Okay, 2 years later.
Right. But they didn't officially start a romantic relationship until 2020.
Wait, really? 5 years after they met?
Yep. And they waited until March of 2022 to make their red carpet debut at an Oscars party.
Oh, wow. So this was a serious slow burn.
Exactly. It's not a guy recklessly blowing up his life. Pacing something over 7 years requires so much intention. It's the opposite of a crisis.
And that's not even the wildest part, honestly. Later in the episode, we'll talk about the shocking twist in his past that actually caused him to delay all of this for so long.
Oh, yeah. The psychological block he had is just intense.
But real quick, if you're loving these Hollywood twists and the psychology behind them, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead, and you do not want to miss them.
Hit that button. But back to Jon. To really measure how far he's come to get to this baby announcement, we have to look at his old mindset.
Let's pull up that interview from 2008. He was talking to The Guardian.
Right. He was in his late 30s, which is, prime settling down time for most people.
And he flat out said he didn't necessarily want kids.
Yeah. And the reason he gave wasn't about his career or Hollywood. He explicitly said he didn't come from a, quote, stable family.
Which is such a vulnerable thing to admit.
And what's fascinating here is the specific way he phrased it. He said that because of his background, having a family felt like a celebration he wasn't sure he could participate in.
A celebration he couldn't participate in. That is wow.
Right.
I mean, think about that for a second. Think about the milestones in your own life that you might have quietly just opted out of.
Like maybe going for a promotion or buying a house or fully committing to someone.
Exactly. Not because you don't want those things, but because you genuinely feel like you lack the internal blueprint to actually make them work. You just uninvite yourself from the party.
It's a massive self-exclusion mechanism. His parents divorced when he was a toddler, so he was completely deprived of that foundational model.
He didn't see conflict resolution or like the safety of an unbroken home.
Right. So building a family isn't just hard. It's like being asked to build a skyscraper when you've never even seen a hammer. The fear of failure is paralyzing.
Which makes his recent shift it's night and day. If we jump forward to June 2024, he's talking to The Hollywood Reporter.
He's 53 at the time of the interview.
Right. And he says about his new marriage, I hope it turns into kids. He just puts it right out there.
And he totally acknowledges his age, too.
Yeah, he says, it's not lost on me that I'm 53. I will be the old dad, but so it goes. It could be a good thing.
So it goes. That is such a powerful phrase.
It's Kurt Vonnegut, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's usually tied to this radical acceptance of things you can't control, like time passing. By saying that, Hamm is basically surrendering his old rigid timeline.
He's not fighting the fact that he's doing this decades later than his peers. He's just embracing it.
Exactly. The anxiety of his 30s is just gone.
Okay, let's unpack this, though, because you don't just age out of deep trauma.
No, absolutely not.
Like, time doesn't just magically fix a brain that thinks family equals pain. You have to put in the work. So what actually caused that lack of a stable family in the first place?
Well, the instability he was talking about in 2008 wasn't just a messy divorce. It was a series of completely devastating losses.
This is where that Katie Couric interview comes in, right?
Yes. He went on her podcast and really break down the timeline of his grief. When Jon Hamm was just 10 years old, his mother died of colon cancer.
Oh, my God.
And she was only 35.
35. I mean, a 35-year-old mother dying of an illness that fast, that is just a cataclysmic event.
For anyone, but especially a 10-year-old.
Right, because at 10, you think hospitals are just for, your grandparents. Sickness is like a cold that goes away.
Exactly.
Having your mom just vanish when you totally depend on her, it breaks the whole contract you have with the universe.
It shatters it. And then it gets worse. A decade later, when he's a 20-year-old college student, his father dies.
So by 20, he's an orphan.
Pretty much. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the era. His mom died in the early 1980s.
Right, mental health care wasn't exactly what it is today.
It was abysmal. Hamm told Katie Couric that seeking therapy back then had this massive stigma.
Yeah.
He said people thought it meant you were going to the rubber room.
That's so sad.
So instead of real help, this grieving kid was just handed a generic clinical book about what to do when a parent dies.
Are you kidding? A pamphlet.
Basically.
That is almost worse than doing nothing. It just invalidates the fact that his entire world just collapsed. How does a kid's brain even process that?
Well, if we look at neuroplasticity, a kid's brain is basically writing its base operating system.
Okay, I like that metaphor.
Right. It observes what happens and codes the rules for survival. So a 10-year-old doesn't understand the biology of cancer. Their brain just processes the event as pure abandonment.
So the code being written is, the people who love you will disappear without warning.
Exactly. And if your base operating system thinks the power grid could randomly shut off forever at any second, you don't build complex apps.
You just run in safe mode permanently.
Yes. You avoid deep attachments because your brain literally equates love with inevitable tragedy.
Wow.
And Hamm said something really profound in that interview. He said that kids are famous for being resilient and surviving, but surviving is not overcoming.
Oh, hold on. Surviving is not overcoming. That is a huge distinction.
It really is. You can survive a shipwreck by floating on a door, but you haven't overcome the ocean until you learn to build a boat.
Wow. And he didn't know how to build the boat.
He had no roadmap. So why invest in a marriage or a baby if your core truth is that the world is completely unsafe?
Which totally explains why he was so terrified to propose to Anna.
Yes.
He actually told the press that when he decided to propose, he was terrified and asking himself, what am I doing?
And that wasn't just standard bachelor cold feet. That was his 10-year-old operating system sending a massive alarm.
Warning him that he was setting himself up to be abandoned again.
Exactly. Overcoming that takes intense therapy. He had to consciously override those neural pathways and convince his nervous system that he was finally safe.
Well, the payoff for all that work is just incredible. But real quick, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because the way this all comes full circle is going to blow your mind.
It really is the most cinematic payoff.
So let's look at the wedding itself. June 2023. They do not just rent, a generic Beverly Hills hotel ballroom.
No, they go to Anderson Canyon in Big Sur,
Which is the exact cliffside location where they filmed that Mad Men finale 8 years earlier.
It's unbelievable. He goes back to the physical spot where his fictional character found spiritual rebirth to literally execute his own real-world rebirth.
And the details of the ceremony are so good. They had this crazy guest list: Tina Fey, Paul Rudd, Brooke Shields, Billy Crudup.
All these people who watched him struggle through the industry for decades.
Exactly. But the best part is the music. They walked down the aisle to the 1976 James Bond theme song.
Which one?
You Only Live Twice.
Oh, come on. That is perfect.
Right. You literally couldn't pick a more on-the-nose anthem for a guy who thought his life script was locked and then just tore it up and started over.
He is actually embarking on a second life.
And he's even called the marriage a reset, a reboot, a reframe, a reimagining. And what I find really fascinating is how this healing is bleeding into his career.
Go completely.
We usually separate an actor's personal life from their work, but for him, it is completely intertwined right now. Like, he and Anna are acting together.
Yeah, they were in that movie Confess Fletch in 2022.
And right now, they're co-starring in that Apple TV series, Your Friends and Neighbors. Season 2 just wrapped up in 2026, and they already got greenlit for Season 3.
Being able to work that closely with your spouse requires a ton of secure attachment and communication. But even his solo roles are showing this evolution.
Oh, like the MGM Plus show.
Yeah, American Hostage. It's this crime thriller podcast that got turned into a series.
Based on the 1970s hostage situation in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah.
He plays the radio reporter, Fred Heckman.
Yes, and Sean Ryan, the creator of the show, pointed out this brilliant contrast. Fred Heckman is a guy completely defined by his devotion to his family and his morals.
Which is literally the exact opposite of Don Draper.
Exactly. Ryan said this is probably the most moral, grounded character Jon Hamm has ever played.
It takes a totally different emotional toolkit.
Because Draper was all about mid-century avoidance, fleeing his past, cheating, emotionally walled off.
He wore that suit like literal armor.
And to play that for a decade, you have to tap into your own isolation.
You're pulling from that safe mode operating system we talked about.
Right. But to play Fred Heckman, a guy who anchors his family in a crisis, you have to draw on profound stability. Hamm is no longer using the energy of a traumatized 20-year-old.
He's pulling from the reality of being a dedicated husband and a soon-to-be dad. He's totally aged out of that broken bachelor archetype, and he's not trying to desperately hold on to it.
It makes him saying he's fine being the old dad resonates so much more. He's just leaning into the maturity he fought for in therapy.
So what does this actually mean when we strip away all the Hollywood glamour?
Well, beneath the Hamptons paparazzi shots and the Big Sur wedding, it's a very human story.
It's about the really hard, unglamorous work of facing your childhood wounds. It proves that with therapy and self-reflection and the right partner, you can literally rewrite your survival rules.
And it raises such an important question for anyone listening who feels trapped by their current life.
Because society pushes this relentless timeline on us.
Oh, completely. You have to have your career set by 30, your family by 40, and by 50, you're just locked in.
And when we miss a milestone, we just assume the window is permanently closed, like we missed the celebration.
But if Jon Hamm can carry the weight of childhood abandonment for 40 years, put in the work to unlearn it, and totally redefine his happiness in his mid-50s.
It shatters the whole concept of a rigid timeline.
Exactly. How much freedom could you find if you just let go of the schedule you thought you were supposed to follow and gave yourself the grace to change your mind?
That is the ultimate takeaway right there. Your personal script is only locked in if you refuse to pick up the pen and write the next scene.
Perfectly said.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining. We'll catch you next time.